Good evening, my black, beautiful wealth geniuses. How is everybody today? Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Wealth Project. The Black Wealth Project is the project with the broadcast that we do every week on Sundays at 7 p.m. And every week at 7 p.m. on Sundays, we talk about black wealth issues, black money issues, black financial issues, and the attempt to help raise the awareness in the black community so we can start doing bigger and better things. This week's episode is all about reading. Reading is fundamental, so we all got together and we read Dr. Claude Anderson's PowerNomics. Very powerful book. Malik Carter, Coach Carter, aka David Ruffin, aka Jay-Z, suggested that we do this episode, and it was a great recommendation. But before we get into that, let's check in with our team. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Listen, man, I'm on top of the world right now, good brother.
Yeah, I'm smooth. Everything is good, man.
Yeah, man. We not from 63rd.
All right. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I'm sure that's a Cobb Creek reference, but what that mean? What that mean?
No, man, that's a Chicago reference. Man.
That's definitely a Chicago reference.
We not from 63rd. Yeah, shout out to Young. Shout out to King Von, man. You know what? Without to go too far off, he was murdered like last week, right? And we just covered how violence hurts the black community financially a few episodes ago. And here we have another young black millionaire murdered, man, in the streets of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then actually what was even dope about, bro, is when he got his first $100,000, he gave his mom some and put the rest back to the projects and broke bread. He gave like 70 racks to the projects, man, with his first 100,000.
Because he knew it was coming back.
What I think is interesting is where else can you get King Von talk as well as Dr. Claude Anderson, man? That's
nowhere. Nowhere
in the world.
So listen, before we get going, right? I do want to give major congratulations to the Bada Hood team, Corey and Malik, and the Bada Hood team, Corey and Jimmy.
Right? Write me out of history, man.
And also Malik, right? So both of these teams just dropped their courses this week. Congratulations to them. Malik dropped, 6 ways to 7 figures, Malik?
6 steps to 7 figures, the beginner's guide to building wealth.
All right, perfect. And then the Bada Hood team also put out the guide to precious metals, or the precious metals guide.
Intro
so listen, y'all, I want to tell the audience, listen, these are gems that these folks are dropping. These things that can help you increase your wealth, not just for you, but for your family and the overall community. So listen, do us a favor, not a favor, actually, do us a service. Share it with some folks, right? We come here every week and we support y'all. So take an opportunity to support the team as well. So share Malik's project and also the Bada Hood project. We'll put the links in the comments shortly so we can get everybody access to that. But listen, again, this is the PowerNomics episode. How many of y'all have read PowerNomics? And as I see everybody kind of chiming in, how many of y'all have read PowerNomics? How many of y'all know who Dr. Claude Anderson is? Be sure, if you have not read it, please read it. It's a jewel. It's a gem. If we all kind of got on this wave, it would change some things. But we're going to go over this book, and we're going to go over this book in depth. And Courtney kind of laid out a whole structure on how we're going to do this, because we're going to do it not just over this episode, but we're also going to do it over the next episode as well. So it'll be 2 episodes in total that we're going to go over this. So, team, this is the week we're going to talk about Dr. Claude Anderson. Let's check in with the folks real quick, and then we'll go to our BOB of the week. So how you doing, Anderson? Adrian? Oh man, I am tired, y'all.
I know that you all over the place tonight, though. You all right?
What's going down?
What?
I'm really tired. I'm really tired. And we got the superstar addition to the team, Tracy Real Estate Pals in the house. Thanks for joining us tonight, Tracy.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, Tracy.
What's up, Tracy?
Like that.
All right, so hey Adrian, hey Roby.
Hey.
Katisa, how you doing?
Oh,
And Roby
got the book.
says she has the book. All right, Roby,
All right.
you have the book, but have you read the book?
Right.
All right. Brandon Jones, how you doing?
How you doing, Brandon?
Welcome.
Monica, what's going
Monica,
on?
happy Sunday.
Happy
Yo.
Sunday.
Nice.
John said just got done reading it last week. All right, Don. We want to see your commentary in the comments. All right, Elizabeth says she started. All right. Hey, Elizabeth, happy Sunday.
Hey,
welcome.
Welcome.
Hey, Liz.
Oh, she read it too.
All right, Katisa said yes. Okay. So, Katisa, are you saying yes to you have the book or you've read the book or both? Let us know.
Angela, what's
Hey,
going
Angela,
on,
how you
Angela?
doing?
Hey,
Happy
Angela.
Sunday. D. Simmons,
Right.
Mr. DSPN.
Hi,
How you
guy.
doing,
Yeah.
Yo, Dwight, listen, check your email too, because I sent everybody an email who copped the course. So just check your email. But I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate that.
Appreciate the love, man.
Okay,
Okay.
Roby says she read it.
Yeah,
All right,
don't play
cool.
with her.
Cool, that's
She
great.
said she
That's
Yeah,
read
she
it.
said she don't play with her, bro. She read it.
Yeah.
She hold it down.
You know what? I missed the bro part. Yeah, and I know how Roby talks, so she definitely said it the way y'all said it.
Hey, what's going on?
All right, well, let's go on to our BOB of the week, our Black-owned business of the week, and Mr. Corey has that this week. So, who you got for us this week, Corey?
I have Professor Carl Tone Jones. And if you go to blackindependence.org, his movie, The Independence Day Project. And what he does is he talks to Black scholars about what it would mean to be independent in this state. And I thought that would be appropriate as we're talking about Dr. Claude Anderson this week. And so I thought it would be appropriate to bring in a person who does that talks about independence and Black independence constantly. Professor Carl Tone Jones. He's in the community and he does the things, that bring about Black independence. And so the Black-owned business this week is Professor Carl Tone Jones and his independent film, The Independence Day Project. The other thing I wanted to say about this is that I have a copy of this. I've watched it. I bought the DVD back when DVDs was out. But he also has it on. He has a video version. So go cop that.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
It's powerful. It's powerful stuff.
And one of the things in there, I just want to say, I know this is Corey's segment, but when me and Corey were in the community doing like free financial seminars, it's a clip from that in the movie. So, I'm all about you supporting that. I had to put that out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Come watch us get busy. Come watch us put in work.
All right, so basically, I don't know if y'all just peeped it, but what Jimmy just did was he told us that him and Corey, Jimmy and Corey, the Bada Hood team, are superstars because they're in the movie. I'm here for
come
it.
on, man. Come on, man. How you turn that on us like that?
Right? He tried players, but it's all good. Hey, listen, I know how to be Colt Seaver sometimes. I can be a stunt man. A lot of y'all too young. I know a lot of y'all too young don't know who Colt Seavers is, but he definitely was a stunt man. His job was stunt man.
All right, so let's get into this book, y'all. Let's talk about it real quick. Give us your 30-second synopsis of the book. What do you think about it? Did it impact you? Were you not impacted by it? Just give it to us. Starting it off with Jimmy.
All right, so I've talked about this book ad nauseum on pretty much every platform I've ever been on. And I know it's hyperbole, but this book literally changed my life when I first read it. I read it so long ago. How about this? And I don't want Courtney and Kamari to get into an argument about Mount Airy, but when I bought the book, I bought it from the Black-owned bookstore that used to be up Sheltonham Mall. That's how long ago it was.
Shout out to Shelton.
Yo, remember that back in the day? Anyway, so that's where I got the
Absolutely.
book from. And it was one of those things that changed my life. I was in college at the time, and I literally I changed my major and started focusing on finance, real estate, and building wealth because of what I read in the book. And one of the reasons why is because I was a political science major. So I was taking internships and working for various candidates, and I'm not going to name their names, some prominent candidates. And I was doing the bottom of the barrel work, answering phones, running stuff over here, dropping off stuff. I was an intern. And what I noticed was when certain people picked up the phone and called, it didn't matter what was going on with the candidate or the person that was holding office. And I've worked on stuff as high as like the district attorney. It didn't matter who it was. When certain people called, they got the phone. And I would go to fundraisers and ask questions. And they would tell me that, I'm into real estate, or I own stock in this, or this, that, and the third. And then I start to realize that whatever they wanted to get done got done. And at the same time as that was literally going on in my life and me noticing this, I was reading this book, and he talks about it in the book. So it was just like a timing thing. And I joke around, I reference this, I say, this is like my Bible. And I saw someone in the comments who's heard me say that before, because since that, it's been almost 20 years at this point, I've been saying, this is my Bible, like, because I read it so many times, and it's kind of shaped the work that I do to this day. So for me, absolutely. Now the funny thing about rereading it now is, I read the book all the time, but rereading it now as we prepared for this episode, you take in information different. And that's one of the most powerful things about books. So any books that you may have read and have touched you, always go back and reread them, because you get different ideas, different perspectives. You may agree or disagree with some of the things that you agree with in the past, but it's still a good read. But, it's with different eyes that I look at it now. So I'll stop there and let everybody else get their opinions off.
Okay. Malik, what do you think?
Yeah, man. So the book, like Jimmy said, like, no, it legit changed my life, right? Now there's only a couple of books that I can say for sure that did that, and Why Guys Have All the Fun. That and this book are the two things where I personally had like the biggest shift in my life. And I reading this book, like there's time period, you gotta think I already went to a HBCU, Black College in Durham, North Carolina. Shout out to NCCU. But reading this book made me realize like how much like I was already supporting Black businesses because that's how I was raised, but it opened up my eyes to why I should do it even more, to where even when I went on dates, I went to a spot called Hakeem's Bookstore on Fayetteville Street. They had a restaurant in the back, little raggedy spot, but I did my best to spend all my money. This is 20 years old, because of these teachings. And like it really changed my life. And it also did the reason why right now my clientele in real estate is what it is, and why I have no interest in working with the other like higher dollar transactions is because I understand the need for my services in the Black community in particular, mainly from reading his book and his perspective and bringing my train of thought out here. Well, his train of thought running through me out here in the world. And one last thing I will say, I was in the aquaponics before I knew Dr. Claude was in aquaponics. I just want to put it out there.
Hold up. Did he say Hakeem Bookstore was the date spot?
Yeah, no, yes. On Fayetteville Street in Durham. I'm sorry. It was called the No Bookstore. I went to Hakeem's on 52nd Street. Hakeem's on 52nd Street. I got my first posters of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and my other books. I was going there when in high school, but forgive me, the No Bookstore was on Fayetteville Street in Durham.
So, all right. I was about to say you had a special room or something set up for you, VIP.
Yeah.
Say.
Hakeem's too little to be having dates in that joint.
The No Bookstore, they had
Tracy, what did you think about the book?
I got through a good amount of it, and I had to take some notes from a lot of stuff because it was so much, and there were so many things that were going on that definitely reinforced, like a few of you have already said, different things that I already knew to be true coming from Ivy Leaf. And
right.
Listen, sometimes these things, when you were instilled very young and didn't understand what they were, and learning things like the Nguzo Saba, the Kwanzaa principles, cooperative economics, and different things like that, it starts to really, really come full circle when you start to think about how much economics moves in our community. So when I went through most of them, there was like a good 12 point action steps that I pretty much got as more of a call to action on things that, you know, Black folks really, really need to understand. And I can post them in the chat and in the group just so that way everybody can see them. But a lot of the details that broke down was just things like, you know, create an alternative economy, dominate business ownership and management where Black people are the majority, focus on wealth building and restoring economic intent of the original civil rights laws, counter the brain drain with businesses that aggressively attract Black talent from schools, the government, and corporate America. Establish solid root businesses with Black communities, construct vertical businesses and industries that control all processes from raw resources and markets within, in, and outside of the Black community. And one of the biggest ones, stop the money drain of the Black communities, buy Black, but sell to everyone. And those were a few points that I pulled out from the conversation that was just like you knew it and you understood it, but as it's laid out in an action plan, you're like, if we did all of these things, I could kind of see how that drain could really, really circle to a funnel for just us. And it's not that we didn't know this, and it's not that we haven't seen the model with other ethnicities and how they do business and how they do business within their own communities. It's just more like, but we're not doing it for us. So I was blown away, and I plan to take more notes.
Okay, cool. Corey, what you got on this?
The thing, you know, it definitely impacted me. This was my like 70-second reread. I fuck with Dr. Claude heavy. But the thing that I always take from it, and every single time I read it, is it all starts with culture. And so none of the other steps can be built without the first step of defining what our culture is, and then weeding out those people that's not part of the culture. And so you know, the action steps, you know, he had the two things that always stand out to me is that it all starts with culture, and then he had an action plan to actually put everything in place. And so, you know, on a 30-second drop, you know, because I can go into intimate detail about, you know, a lot of the plan and steps and all of that. But for a 30-second drop, that's really what it's about. It all starts with culture, and then he has an action plan, not just a talking for, you know, a lot of people talk fly, a lot of people pop fly. He got an action plan. So that's my main two takeaways from the book.
Yeah. So hold on to those gems for when we get back into the meat of it all, Corey. Good stuff though.
Yeah.
What you got?
I don't even get an intro. You just put it on me. Oh, okay. I see how we're going to do this evening. No, you just put it, boop, pop it. No problem.
I'm sorry.
Kamari just bagged tonight, yo.
I see. So basically, it's confirmation of a lot. What I love is a lot, even without me personally reading it, and I know a couple of us have not read it. And what I'm speaking of it is the book, is that a lot of the things that we talk about and a lot of the issues that we broach in the Black Wealth Project that we have been talking about are actually covered in the book. And so it's always good to see, like, okay, we're just not talking out our behinds. We actually are really talking about things that other people that have been, you know, in the trenches. Dr. Claude's been in the trenches since the 70s. So just to see that somebody who's been in the trenches, we're basically all speaking the same language, that's always a good thing. I geeked out. He went into the Constitution. So I got all excited. He got into, I was like, oh, yes. I was like, yes, you're right. So just seeing the, looking at things through a different lens, confirmation, and just really seeing that there is an action plan. Because I feel like we have a lot of conversations, at least on the Black Wealth Project, and even privately and separately, is that we're kind of like spinning our wheels on a plan. And I think that he really has a plan that, allows us to execute and actually get somewhere. But he also has a lot of acknowledgement saying, at the end of the day, he was like, yo, the wealth is frozen. It's over there. And it's not Black people's fault. And I think a lot of people's like, you know, they have these conversations of, you guys have to do better. You have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And he's like, no, you got us messed up in the game. You have extracted all of this wealth from us. And it's something we talk about on the show, but you extracted all this wealth. And now all of a sudden, you've actually frozen that wealth in whiteness. And, and I love the fact that he kind of attributes, he doesn't necessarily put a dollar value, but there is a value on whiteness. So I just like that conversation that he said. I'm really excited for us to get into the meat of it.
Absolutely. So yeah, y'all, this is not only the show where we talk about King Von and all the other great cultural stuff, but my panelists will throw me under the bus too. So it's all we have fun all the time. But listen, I love this book, and I think I said this the other day. By the way, if you've not joined the Black Wealth Project group, please join the Black Wealth Project group. We're having daily conversations about Black wealth, and that group is here on Facebook. So go ahead and talk about that. But I talked about some of the excerpts in the book here, which I have. And one of the things that really jumped out at me is this quote right here. He said, "The average Black person passes on 0 assets to future generations. The typical white family is more economically stable and secure. Approximately 87% of this nation's economic assets are now frozen." Now, Courtney just talked about the frozen assets, but she said the frozen assets within a dominant white society and are passed on from one generation to the next in such forms as stocks, bonds, land, business, trust accounts, endowments, foundations, and insurance policies, right? Therefore, white children are privileged to enter the world with 87% of the resources that they need in life already, and their families, race, communities, business, schools, governments, or social organizations. Thus, succeeding generations of whites can access the wealth resources over and over again. Like, that was like a super hot bar to me, or bars to me, and it just really stuck out. Again, I never really read the book, but I've watched a lot of Dr. Claude Anderson, met him personally one time when he came to Philly to do an event. He definitely had an impact on me. And like Tracy and Courtney said, and a few others said, this is the stuff that we kind of talk about all the time, but when you see it kind of laid out on paper and pen and words, they really just jump off the screen at you, and it really takes a whole other life of its own. But if you look at Malik's shirt, right, all those things he talked about is a lot of the same stuff that Dr. Claude talks about, and those are the things that we talk about all the time. So that wealth is there. We just got to figure out more ways to get to it and be more creative about getting at it. So
and these shirts are available on my page. Click the link in the bio. They are available to purchase on my page.
on site.
To buy the hood stacker shirt. But
Where's your hood?
I'm sorry. Let's not turn this into a commercial though.
Yes, thank you guys.
All right. I think one thing I meant to say and I forgot, and I love the way Jimmy kind of dated himself with the Cheltenham Mall that now no longer exists. This book was written over 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was definitely written in the
jab. But I kept asking myself, like, was this really written 20 years ago, or was this written 6 months ago, 3 months ago? Because a lot of the things he's talking about in this book, I was like, oh, are you what's going on? Like, when did you write this? And I kept saying that. I kept saying that to myself. I mark up my book something terrible. I don't know if y'all can see that, but I mark up my books. And I had marks all over it. Like, really? Like, question mark. I talk to myself in the margins. That's what I do. But I mean, I was really shocked that it's a lot of the stuff that he's been talking about this for 20 years, and a lot of it hasn't changed. And it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what hit me? What hit me?
By the way, go ahead, Malik.
So what hit me more? The quote by Harriet Tubman: "I free hundreds of slaves. I would have freed thousands more. They knew they were slaves." But I've seen it a million times. But reading it, like what Dr. Claude's written down, realize like today, like a lot of Black folk don't realize how a bad state that we are in as a culture. Like we're doing bad, but they just don't realize it. And so because you don't realize it, do you just like think this is what it is? Or are you content? Or are you hopeless? Or like I really don't understand the circumstance, but it does seem like a lot of people just aren't really trying to move and elevate even themselves. So it's a tough one, man. It's a tough spot.
Correct.
Well, it's funny. There's another bar in the book where it says that 38% of the Black population is below the poverty level. And then he also said 38% of the Black population is above or like right there at the poverty level. So basically 76% of the Black population in the United States at that time that he wrote the book is in or around the poverty level, which is very sad. Very, very sad. But real quick, I'm gonna take a quick jab at Jimmy.
So one of the things, okay.
Comments. Listen, Jimmy, the bookstore that you talked about, the Black-owned bookstore that was in Cheltenham Mall, was actually great, but it's not in Mount Airy, sir. It's in Cheltenham, and that's outside of Philadelphia. But
no, I know it's across the street from Mount Airy. I get that. I just want to say real fast that one of the things that always
it's across. Courtney, don't clap your hands because that's 19150, and you say all of Mount Airy is 19119. But go ahead, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Actually that's not 50 yet though. That's 19138 there.
Trey,
let's not get into that. I told you I want to turn this into a West Oak Lane Maury thing. I was going to say something about this book, about the book though. One of the things that I've always appreciated about the book was that I'm gonna give you an example. Right? So 3 major impediments to Black competitiveness. He talks about maldistribution of wealth and resource power.
Hold that thought for 1 second. Let's check in with the audience.
Okay.
And then hit us with the bars once we get through the audience. All right. So I don't know where to begin because a bunch of people jumped in again. All right. Don Johnson said, looking forward to the course. I'm assuming he probably brought the Bada Hood course and Malik's course as well.
No, listen, Don supports so much. Don support us so much. We actually gave him a course, so as a way to show our appreciation of Don. So it's all up. Don, appreciate you.
That's dope.
That's dope. Latoya Marie says, after hearing Jim call a Bible, I'm on it. Yep, it's definitely a Bible. Well, haven't read the book and watched all the YouTube videos. Oh, okay, you are invested.
She always on.
Yeah, that's what's up. You serious? Haven't read it yet. My old brain cells trying to study for a certification. All right,
go get that cert.
I understand that.
Go get that cert.
That's right. What's up, Kahan? Thanks for joining. Haven't read, but have listened to many Dr. Claude interviews where he breaks down the plan. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Kahan. Sean said he has a book starting it this week. All right, let us know what you think about it once you get through it, Sean. Sean, I think you're in the yep. And Sean, chime in. I think you're in the group, so chime in the group and let us know how you're making out as well.
He made you.
$1 million man.
Hey, Sheree, shout out to the Black to the 10K project that Sheree is the founder of. How you doing, Sheree? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Shout out.
Hello.
All right. The White says 30-second summary. Without reparations, Black folks will forever be above the poverty line. The data and illustrations were undeniably impactful. The plan is also outstanding.
Dope.
There you go. All right.
All right. That's dope. All right. Don Johnson says 100% agrees. Elizabeth says, preach, Malik.
Preach.
Don't that boy getting his David Ruffin bag.
Fact.
We gotta execute facts. We gotta execute the Stocks and Stiletto Society. Shout out to y'all. Hey everyone, Dr. Claude is the truth. PowerNomics or hashtag PowerNomics. Sheree says the wealth is there, and yes, Kamari, we have to be creative when we talk about getting to it. Yep, we absolutely do it. We'll do. All right. So, all right, Jimmy. I see you ready to go. So, tell us what you're about to talk to us about.
No, I was just going to say this, and you guys can weigh in on this. He talks about the 3 major impediments to Black competitiveness: maldistribution of wealth and resource powers, inappropriate behavior patterns, and lack of a national plan for empowerment. So, to me, what's powerful about it is he says, "Listen, these are all the things that are in front of us and we face, but we also have to do some work on ourselves as well." Right. So a lot of times when people take the approach of telling us, like they tell you to pick yourself up on your bootstraps, like Courtney mentioned, or they go to the Bill Cosby approach and tell us to pull our pants up. His approach was a little different. His approach was like, listen, we do have to work on ourselves, but there are reasons why we are in the condition that we're in, right? So a lot of times, people never like to talk about those reasons. As Courtney mentioned, going back to the Constitution and talking about the history, they just look at our current situation and say, pick yourself up or do these things. So he acknowledges that although there are things in history which lead us to our current state, we still have some work to do. So it's like a combination of both, and it's an action plan. So at the time when I read this book, there was a lot of books talking about things, but none of them really gave an action plan. It was all about like, here's the data, here's where we are, here's why we are, but there was never an action plan. So he combined those three things. And to me, that's one of the things that make this book powerful is the history. It's okay, these are the things we have to improve on, and here's an action plan. So I just wanted to put that out there as we start to talk about everything else in the book.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, so who wants to go at it first? Who wants to jump in and get to the meat of it all?
I mean, I'll jump in. So the piece that I like the most about it, again, he say start with culture, but the other piece is what he calls ethno-aggregation and vertical integration. So basically what happens is he calls it the power T model, and then there's an illustration in the book. But the ethno-aggregation is basically, spending your money, spending your time, spending your resources, pooling the pooling of Black resources together. Because what he talks about in the book is that power is not singular. Power is a group effort. And then he goes into, certain groups, and he talks about the Arabs and the Cubans and the Jews and things of that nature. And then also vertical integration is that once we have that ethno aggregation, that we get, basically he's talking about representation everywhere when he's talking about vertical integration, which is what he calls sideways integration, which means once we've aggregated, then we go out into society. And so basically what he's given us a blueprint for is how not to be assimilated into the society and to be part of the society and not be assimilated by it. And so we don't live like that. Like, we get assimilated into everything because we don't have any power. Because if you integrate without power, it's always going to be assimilation, which means something else that he talks about is that you always going to be bound by the white structures. He talks about I guess this is Siberian Huskies, where the ones in the back, all they can see is the ones in the front ass, and all they do is follow them around. And that's exactly what Black people do in this society, because we don't have any power. We don't have any aggregated power. And so he, when he talks about power as a team sport, that's everything else in the book, based off of culture, and then power as a team sport. And then once you get that power, then you can move out and spread out into other things. And so, I want to take, step by step. Let's aggregate our power. Let's go ahead. Let's base it off of culture and then aggregate our power. Let's start taking those action steps.
But what's so funny, Corey? Courtney and I actually had a conversation today talking about culture. And I said something very similar. I feel that Black people in the United States really don't have culture. Now, I know they do, but I'm talking about it from a really 50,000 foot view, kind of the same way Dr. Claude Anderson is. And a lot of times our culture is very much aligned to our proximity to whiteness. And we've all kind of said that when watching the show several times. I think we all have probably said that to a certain degree. But I find that a lot of us won't talk about that, though. We won't talk about the cultural piece. All we care about is the get money piece. And we don't realize that the get money piece means nothing without culture.
So do we not have culture, or do we not have culture you agree with?
No, we don't have aggregated culture. We have singular culture. We don't have aggregated culture.
Okay, define aggregated culture.
So aggregated culture is that a set of norms that we can all agree on, right? We have individual culture, right? Like us, we all get together because we all think along the same lines, right? We found our little tribe, right? But as a bigger aggregate, as a 45 million person aggregate, we don't have cultural norms. We don't have things that separate us financially, especially. And then actions that we say is just totally off limits because we get into the they let people do what they want to do kind of thing instead of saying, look, if you're going to be part of this culture, these are the things that we do in this culture. And so either you get down or you lay down, or you look from the outside till you're ready to get in. And every other culture does that. Every other single culture does that.
But let's take it a step further, right? Let's take it a step further. When you look at the individualism, that's kind of the Americanized, rugged individualism that we have basically adopted and assimilated to. And so that sends the whole.
I did the thing with Professor Carl Tone Jones, because that's what he talks about in his film.
But the reality, and I think I've said, and I think a lot of people have said it right, but the Americanized individuality is actually a lie, because when you look at wealth, it's definitely a group activity, like Corey just echoed, like Dr. Claude just echoed. In banks are a great example of that. Insurance companies are a great example of that. Hedge fund companies are a great example of that. Private equity companies are a great example of that. Even just board of directors of some of these major corporations are a great example of that, and how folks have come together and pulled their resources, whether it be money, time, talent, or treasure, but they all put it towards a purpose. And a lot of times, even though Black folks create the cool, control the cool, we haven't figured out how to quite do that yet. And I'd say it's because of, our post-traumatic slavery trauma, as Dr. Joy DeGruy perfectly labeled, in my opinion. And that's something we kind of got to reprogram ourselves and unprogram ourselves. But to Jimmy's point, right? I mean, yeah, we clearly have culture, right? When you look at the Black church and how it's kind of redefined itself, it's not the same as going to a white church. When you see what Black people do with anything else, we always put our sauce, our flavor on it, right? And that is definitely cultural. But when we talk about it from a bigger 50,000-foot standpoint, our culture oftentimes is eclipsed because we're trying to be someone else. In my opinion.
Right. I mean, well, I think we had the culture episode, before, but I think that to Corey's point, a little bit back there, right? When we think about think about it right now, right? When we think about group economics and like the larger things, the thing that never gets neglected, the thing that we all come together for, is the church building fund. The church building fund never goes empty. That's the one thing that we could always get together for. And the roof needs to get fixed, they find a way to raise money for it, right? But outside of things that have to do with the church, like when it actually comes to collect and thinking about it, I think it's really difficult to raise capital for any major things. Like right now, what Dr. Claude talks about also is schooling, right? And after Ivy Leaf closed, Philadelphia, there is no school outside of some charters, but they're still obligated, to the city. And so we really can't even control the education that our kids get, and what's needed. And what's really important right now in the city of Philadelphia, which I've been saying for a while, Silicon Valley, if our kids aren't getting the education and the sciences, like an in-depth education in sciences, then the next few years they won't even be able to afford to live in the city of Philadelphia, right? And they know when that's coming, but we can't control what our kids are learning. Then we're really just, subject to what Dr. Claude also says in the book is what the schools are doing. They want to educate kids just enough to work and take orders from other people. So we got to figure out a way to, raise capital, come together and get our kids educated in a space outside of the traditional public school, even if it's a Saturday school, right? Even if it's just after school programs, but something outside of the regular public school system. We got to be able to bring some bread together and make that happen for the future, or we won't.
So I would like
to
push
break that
culture, but go ahead.
Go ahead, Courtney.
No, I mean, I hear what everybody's saying, but I think we do have some real integral pieces of culture. And I think Andre says it in the comments, is that, you know, I think we look at us and we're just saying because it doesn't look like what we would like it to look like in terms of culture, we kind of push it off. But I think there are certain aspects of it. It's like when we may not see eye to eye on a lot of things, most things. We're not a monolith. But and the reason why even Kamari and I had this conversation earlier is that I was telling him that I was sitting down with a gentleman from the South and a woman from Kenya, and we were sitting down and talking about funerals. And I'm from Philly. We were talking about funerals and how we all had the same experience. And we were having a conversation there were two other white men in the conversation, and they were just completely lost. And we're laughing and joking and going back and forth about this funeral and how our funeral experiences are. And again, and again, I'm laughing and we're looking at them. They're just as confused as they want to be because it was part of our culture. Now, mind you, we have someone from the continent. We have someone from down south. We have somebody from up north, and we're all having the same conversation. Now, is that funeral experience exactly the same? Absolutely. But, you know, just the fact that we were all kind of just like, it just seemed that we were all getting to the point of this thing is a spectacle on all fronts. And it was just that joy that we saw, and it was just the interaction that we had. And I think that is a part of a culture. Now, has it been watered down? Has it been changed? Absolutely. But I think to say that we don't have a culture because it doesn't look like what we think it should look like in terms of a culture, I think that's unfair. I mean, a lot of our culture has been stripped from us. I mean, for most of us, you can see that there were some properties down south, some churches where where Arabic was inscribed. It was from the slaves, you know. And I think they also come and think that we were uneducated when we came here. I mean, let me clarify. It was enslaved people. Let me clarify my language. But at the end of the day, is that no, a lot of this we had culture. We brought a lot of it over here, and I don't think that we actually give ourselves enough credit when it comes to that cultural aspect. So. That's what I wanted to push back on.
Well, that's a great segue, because the white's comment definitely triggers something in me, because people say this all the time. He said, I feel what Corey and Kamari are saying, and an example is a statement, Black people aren't a monolith. Well, no people are a monolith, right? The Jewish community is very splintered, going to Andrew's point and Latoya's point, both great points. I will definitely get them on the screen in a minute. But the Jewish community is not a monolith either. You have Zionists, you have Orthodox, various others. However, when it comes to the protection of Israel, they all basically rock on the same level. Now, we also have to remember, right, they stay on code. And also remember, we are talking about this from a very generalized standpoint. And I know you should never really talk about things from a generalized standpoint, but when we're putting together a show, it's really hard to talk about individualistic experiences. But Courtney, you know, again, the great experience that you had was with people in the diaspora. How many Black folks in America only think Black people come from America? I mean, just kind of going into that and only care about that. And so, you know, there's something to be said about that. And I'm not saying that, you know, we all have to agree that everything is supposed to be exactly the same, but many of us, due to the inbred teaching during our enslavement period, still hold those programmings and those values to be true, and they have become adopted into our community. Sadly. And that's all.
Okay, y'all did some pushback, but what I was talking about is cultural norms, right? There's a difference between not having any culture and then not having cultural norms, something that we all rock out on, right? And so the difference between having culture and we create culture, right? We create things, and then other people steal them and sell them back to us. That's something that I was talking about in a previous show. You know, we put out coke and they sell it back to us as crack, right? But what I was saying is that we have to establish cultural norms, things that are, you know, non-negotiables. We don't have any non-negotiables.
Okay.
And so when you don't have any non-negotiables, you can't weed people out. People just running around, running amok and doing whatever they want to do. And that's not how no other, you know, culture that has put anything together does things. There are norms. There are things that you can and cannot do in there, right? You know, other cultures will tell you don't bring nobody from no other culture in here. We ain't playing. Or you cut out. We gonna excommunicate you, right? But if a black person say that, they get looked at like they crazy. They get looked at like they got four eyes. You know, they got like they walking around with a tail coming out their back. So you know we can't even do that. So the cultural thing, you know, I don't think we have cultural norms. I'm not going to say we don't have culture. Let me be more clear about what I mean.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair, and I definitely echo your same thoughts, and I kind of said the same thing to Corey. So let's get to these other comments real quick. So Latoya says, I love this spelling of white people, by the way. But white people don't have culture either. Everything they has been pillaged from others. They weaponize their mediocrity through capitalism.
No.
So, hold on, Courtney. Hold on. So let's be Latoya is factual.
Shout out to Latoya.
She said a flamethrower to the heads.
Yeah, she's factual. The Greeks learned from the Kemetic and the Nubians, also known as the Egyptians, right? Everybody likes to throw around Egyptian, but I'd rather go back to the source. They've learned from them, and then somehow Greek is now the gold standard for everything, right? And then you could come to current day, and we can see kind of the same thing. So I agree with you there. However, through this whole process of enslavement, we have now taken their values, their cultural norms, and we have assimilated them and started using them as our very own. So if we want to use the term culture, cultural norms, it's cool. I'm cool with it either way. But just to let you know where we all kind of stand on things. I will say this, though. I feel capitalism gets a bad name.
Because people don't understand what it actually is.
Exactly. Right. I was about to go in. I'm going in because I'm
about to yield the floor to you. They didn't actually weaponize mediocrity through capitalism. They weaponized mediocrity through straight up military might. And they talk about that a lot in a book and a documentary called Guns, Germs, and Steel. Again, Guns, Germs, and Steel. But go ahead, Courtney. What you got?
Great book.
I mean, I think the problem is that what we have, let's be very clear, what we have in the United States is not capitalism. I'm going to say it. What we have in the United States is not capitalism. At the best is corporate socialism. That's it.
This ain't plutocracy. It's plutocracy.
Plutocracy. I don't know that one. Do share.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Plutocracy is it's basically it's a country run by corporations.
Oh, okay, yes, that's it. I mean, there was even a Supreme Court ruling, 2013, 2012, something. No, maybe 2009. That corporations are people, huh? Okay, but my problem is that that capitalism actually is just an exchange of goods and services that's not done by the government. It's private. Exchange of goods services, and capitalism is probably one of the best ways for us to kind of rewrite the ship, never get ahead, but kind of turn it around. Because at least in capitalism, you own your own means of production. And that's essentially what's in the book. Own your own means of production. He talks about it all over the place. Dr. Claude talks about owning our own means of production, being in charge of our ship, being in charge of our economies. So capitalism is it. And I know that everybody, but this is what happens when we don't have good education in the systems. This is not a slight to Latoya or anything, because of something that has been rampant all over the internet. It's like capitalism is wrong. So here's my question. What's better? Communism? Socialism? Let me know. I mean, but that's my question. But again, we're not there. The United States doesn't have that. So whatever you think about the United States economic system, political system, it's not capitalism. They call it that because they think it's cute. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Well, I mean, none of those systems work because of people. Our problem,
right.
Our problem, people are evil. You put whatever system you want to, people will find a way to make it evil. So that's really boils down to.
Correct.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because at the head of every system is when you focus power, when you put power into the hands of a small few, that it is guaranteed to be some kind of corruption.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Absolute power.
So officially today,
corrupts. Absolutely. Period.
so the word today brought to us by Corey is plutocracy. The definition is government by the wealthy, a controlling class of the wealthy. Listen, words matter, y'all. Words matter.
Listen, we got a new word of the day. So when it's brought up, everybody got to clap like Pee-wee's Playhouse.
You said.
All right. Let me stop. Let me stop dating
I always
myself.
talk about we don't live in capitalism, we don't live in democracy, live in a plutocracy. Because we basically live in a caste system here in America. Because if you're born poor, you're 95% guaranteed to die poor. So and that's across all races. So it's a caste system. It's not really capitalism or any other ism. It's really we live more like, we in India somewhere than we do. We be talking about capitalism and all these isms and all that stuff. It's just pure plutocracy. Like the small percentage control the large percentage.
All right, so Don basically reiterated this. Control white people are judged by the 10%, black are judged by the bottom 100. Again, so Elizabeth said, Lord, I had to pull over. We really can't compare black culture to Israel. Protection of Israel is ingrained and even backed by multiple governments. We have a disconnect with the continent that is rightfully ours, and we don't know who or how to trust to even establish cultural norms. We don't have a sense of universal self-identity. Nice. Yes, Elizabeth, you are echoing my points, but here is the thing, right? And I like to bring up Israel, and I like to use the Jews as a model. We don't want to mimic them, and I want to mimic anybody, but there are some good models out there. Yes, it's reinforced. So what are black folks reinforcing, right? And this isn't to put down black folks. That's not why I'm here. But I'm saying that we should be reinforcing the fact that black folks should work with black folks, the facts that where we come from, right? No matter how you feel about the continent. I could survey 100 black folks born in America, and many of them still think Tarzan is real. And that's a very sad thing. And so, I say all that to say is I'm not romanticizing Israel. All I'm saying is that when somebody says something that's even remotely bad about Israel, the ADL comes out, it makes a statement. Nobody Jewish comes out in defense of who they just called out. In our culture, we defend many of those who get called out. So, and again, y'all might call it a monolith. I call it solidarity. I call it unity. And the only thing that creates power and wealth is solidarity and unity. And going back to our great ancestor, Frederick Douglass, nothing concedes power but a demand. So how can you make a demand if you have no solidarity? How can you make a demand if you have no unity? So again, we keep coming around to these same old things over and over again, but we won't talk to the issue, at hand. But, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Elizabeth.
Well, because it all goes down. It all goes back to what I always say is love. Only thing we unify and protect Beyonce. Outside of that, we don't protect nothing else.
Shout out to Beehive.
Oh, Rihanna reaching that status.
Shout out to him.
She close. But she ain't.
She ain't on Beyonce level yet.
She's not close.
But she close.
She's not.
Listen. Rihanna, Riri got fans, y'all.
Yo, if you say something bad about Rihanna, you might get clapped on, man. If you say something about Beyonce, you guaranteed to get clapped on.
It ain't.
You say something bad about
Beyonce, though. It's levels. Let's put that.
You get erased if you say something bad about Beyonce.
All right, so Adrian says, I usually go back to the basics of what culture is. Culture can be defined by language, food, traditions, art, etc. To a point, we have a specific culture that we created in this country, which may further be specified by someone's family is from, i.e. the South. A lot of us with Southern roots have some things in common that we understand, i.e. black eyed peas on New Year's Day. Yeah, but here's the thing. Most of us came from the South. Like if you really study the black migrations, most of us, not all, right? But I would say the large majority of us came from South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. A large majority of us.
So can we not call those migrations because we didn't move because we wanted to? Those weren't migrations.
All right, but migration is just a movement of people. You're right, Corey.
Those weren't migrations though. Those was something else. I don't know what else you want to call them, but we were forced off of that land.
What you got? Because I don't have any other language around.
I got a lot of like, we were, the same thing that happens when people call slavery enslavement.
I say we were from
immigration.
Most of our family
like
in Georgia.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. We were evicted.
Well, listen, a lot of us ran from the Klan. That's facts, and a lot of us moved up north to get jobs. So yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Corey. I just don't have the language for it, and I'm okay with admitting that. All right, so Amina Design says Dr. Claude's book, Black Labor, White Wealth, speaks specifically about the exploitation of our culture for their wealth and benefit.
Yes.
I mean, if you go back and look at all our great musicians, if you just look at jazz, right? Forget about hip hop for a moment, but the way jazz was like totally ripped off, and you look at how rock and roll was totally ripped off.
Again, country music, all the country music. What? They took their whole shit. Now the boy Nas X can't even make a song. They was about to blackball his ass. They was like, hold up. No,
real
man.
Quick, Kamari, just to let you know that I never ran from the Ku Klux Klan and I shouldn't have to run from a black man. But also, jazz might be more egregious, right?
Shout out to Kumo D.
Listen, jazz might be more egregious though, right? If you ever go to iTunes and you like look up jazz, Kenny G pops up. How's that even possible? Like Kenny G is the face of jazz.
All the great jazz musicians in the history of our history. We had a damn renaissance around jazz. Yeah. And then and the first person that popped up is damn Kenny G. Listen, man. I could go in. This is why that's why I'm fucking them. Because on some real shit. Listen, man, because anything is co-opted is co-opted. Listen, man, anything they touch becomes co-opted. And then once it's co-opted, it's corrupted. That's why I don't listen, man. If they gotta be involved and they gotta have any kind of ownership stake, I roll. I'm good.
Okay.
All right. So Andrew says, hold on, Courtney. Mm-hmm. Andrew said he seconds that what you're talking about, Courtney. There's nothing wrong with capitalism. So what were you saying, Courtney?
So can we talk about jazz real quick? Because I think we look at jazz and we think one of the things I always thought was interesting is that jazz has always been related with smoking weed, right?
But that's why they had laws around smoking weed because of the damn Renaissance.
Right, but let me tell you how weed actually found its way to Harlem. It was a white guy from Chicago. I mean, like,
why am I not shocked?
Right, but that's what I think is so funny. So we're having this conversation and we're talking about, how these things happen. And I was just kind of like, wow. But he definitely did go to jail. He went to jail under the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. But I just thought it was interesting. He was actually one of the very first people that was, prosecuted under that particular law. This is the precursor to what we have now, which is the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. But I always thought it was interesting. I was like, there y'all are again. Just all up in it. So, but again, that also helped having drugs in jazz actually, aided the basically the harassment of musicians, black musicians. So you always kind of look at things in like very small, like in a very small section, and then we pull it out.
That's how they criminalized the musicians because they couldn't criminalize the music.
Correct.
They criminalized the weed, and then they busted down on the cribs.
Yep, exactly.
And so that's how they criminalized.
I just want to
go ahead.
I just want to say because I love giving out book recommendations. There's an excellent book called Reefer Madness. Which that story part of it, and also just the history of marijuana in general. But I just went to iTunes and I looked up jazz again to see if it was still Kenny G. And I can report to you guys it's not Kenny G. It's now Frank Sinatra and Michael Bublé.
No. Stop it. No.
Wow. Do me a favor. You know what? Hold on. Let me do it because I want to put it on the screen. I want to see what happens when you Google jazz. What is up first? So let's check that out real quick, folks.
It's all going to depend on
Real
your
quick.
algo. It's because your
your algo going to be pro-black. You got a pro-black algo.
Yeah, it's going to depend on your algo.
That is true. That is true.
Let's see.
I better have a pro-black algo. So mine's is a little different. It's talking about the NBA. Here, I'll pull it up here. It's talking about the NBA.
See? That's because of your algo.
Right. Well, and it's also
those racist, man.
Those are the things that are trending right now the hardest for jazz. And so the jazz just, the NBA just had the draft. So
put in jazz.
Google jazz music.
Yeah, jazz music.
Jazz. All right. We're going to watch this happen live. If I can get back to my screen.
Yeah, but
jazz music, y'all said, right?
The internet has been like a great equalizer, man, of black wealth. But you better give us getting good, man, in a couple of more years. I don't know how these kids gonna make money.
Smooth jazz. What is this?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
So those are the YouTube videos that come up.
I can't even
What's
see.
the meaning of jazz? You can't say it, Corey.
It's just.
Wait, what are the 15 best jazz songs?
Frank Sinatra, Michael Bublé, Marshall Mathers.
Stop.
Marshall Mathers.
But there's a picture of Miles and John and Thelonious and Louis Armstrong.
Okay, his algo is pro-black. I fuck with Kamari.
Yeah, that's Kamari's algo. That's a test. We got to test you, Kamari. If something else popped up. But no, iTunes though, where everybody majority of music is sold on iTunes. If you look on iTunes, and it's been that way for years because I always check it, just to piss myself off.
Okay, I mean, you like to get your blood pressure high. Got it.
I can't.
All right, so they got
So what?
Okay.
That's one of the tops.
Frank,
listen, you never know.
What is this?
Oh my God.
No.
Mood Indigo.
Okay.
By Duke. All right. Well, you never know where we're going to go on a Blackwell project, y'all. Like Jimmy said earlier, we talk about Pop Smoke.
We're doing a terrible job protecting the Coltrane House on 33rd Street too, man. We're not doing it.
So Dave Brubrick.
Who is that?
What, Dave Brubrick? He's a white guy.
I know.
The girl from
Ipanema.
Well, that's a very famous song. But Stan Getz is white.
I know.
Cab Calloway, Minnie the Moocher.
It's more swing. It's more swing, not even jazz, really.
I agree with Malik. It is very much swing. I can clearly
I agree.
Talking about.
It's going to get labeled as jazz, though. Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World. Mm-hmm. Billy Armstrong, Strange Fruit.
I just want to shout out Louis Armstrong. My great grandfather played in his orchestra, so shout out to Louis Armstrong.
That's dope.
Dope.
That's dope. What did he play, Jimmy?
He played the trumpet. His name was Charlie Gaines.
They just put anything in the jazz category at this point.
Yeah, right. Shit in there.
Yeah, we about to.
I would definitely wouldn't consider Ray Charles.
We about to see Summer Walker pop up.
Well, but I know, right? Ray Charles actually was a jazz musician, like early on.
But that wasn't a jazz song, no.
Not that. No, but not that.
The hell, man!
Like this is not.
Yeah, well, we see.
I will say though, I think that as black people. As black people, we really aren't really protecting our music though. Like jazz shouldn't be going by the wayside. I mean, go-go is about obsolete. It's like a tiny corner of DC is still rocking go-go. And we really can't lose go-go. It's just like certain things that we just not really protecting. That's what
I was talking about when I was talking about gentrification. Because we lose those cultural norms because all of the people that used to live there are getting dispersed. And all of the people.
All right, well, let's have this conversation though.
When
you talk about jazz, hip hop, when you talk about jazz, hip hop, all the different music genres, how much of that do we actually own? right?
None of it.
We
I ain't gonna say none of it.
we're the
Very
artists,
small percentage.
but how much? Well, no, very small percentage. Now, I do think that there's a cultural shift where ownership is being talked about more. But historically speaking, when you look at all those different, in music is culture, hip hop is culture. But that do we own? So it's a conversation that you have to talk about a lot of our culture being taken from us, and even the distribution systems. I talk about iTunes, but how many of those channels do we own? Which is all goes back to Dr. Claw's book.
Well, I think to Jimmy's point, I think when we were trying to get into the music industry, trying to be seen in all of these kind of artistic pursuits in the early 20th century and even into the mid 20th century, we were looking for income. We weren't looking for wealth. Wealth wasn't even on our radar.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we also didn't know the value. They knew our value more so than we knew our value. They knew the value of Black music. That's why they owned our masters. Yeah. They knew the value of, kind of Black art. And that's why they gave us, these pennies, so they knew that they could get the royalties, because the beauty, the wonderful thing is still in the royalties. But again, they understood the system and we didn't. And they monopolized and capitalized on that. And I think those are the things that, the book definitely talks about. We talk about this income versus wealth. We talk about it a lot. And the thing is that so many, and we know how we have an income and wealth problem, just even looking at it now, is that how many people who were great musicians died broke.
And are going to.
So listen, everybody, you're watching the Black Wealth Project. The Black Wealth Project airs every Sunday at 7 p.m. Do us all a favor, y'all. We're having a great conversation tonight about Dr. Claude Anderson's famous book, PowerNomics. Invite some people in who could benefit from this conversation. Invite some people in who are looking to motivate and excel in their wealth pursuits. All right, because that's what we're all about. So Malik, you were saying something?
So Malik. I think all I was saying was, like, to the music part, I think that people are getting smarter, but when Big Red was trying to tell us about the music business, we vilified Big Red, but his office hour, all he wanted, office hours was 9 to 5. Nobody could even look at that one thing. Vilified Big Red. But ultimately, I do want to say this.
See, we all know what you're talking about. That's culture.
That is culture. But the thing is, though, all artists right now are talking about owning masters and royalties. And one thing that people brought up the other day with the verses with Gucci versus Jeezy, I don't know how true this is, but they were saying when Jeezy verses, he only paid a segment of his song, but Gucci is playing his whole record because Gucci actually owns all of his music, all of his masters, where Jeezy does not own all of his.
It's owned by Def Jam.
Right. And so I don't know how true it is, but Gucci always has owned. We knew that, though, about Gucci. Maybe that's why he's not as big, because there's no machine pushing. If the machine owns the records, they go spend the money to elevate them. If Gucci owns it, there's nobody to elevate it. That's why the streets love Gucci more than Jeezy at this point. But I think that ownership.
I don't agree with that either.
What's that?
I don't know if you.
We're not from 63rd.
Yeah, everybody knows that Jeezy I don't know.
I grew up on early 2000 Jeezy. I'm a whole Jeezy fan, so I got no connection to Gucci and his ways.
I don't either. I was like, what were you doing?
So hold on, y'all. Hold on. Let's get to this question here. All right. So Alan says, "What's up, kings and queens? What's up to you, Alan? Thanks for joining us."
What's going on, Alan?
Since capitalism is a failure, how could it be a success when every country is in so much debt?
Okay. Can I shoot the first? Can I shoot the first shot at this?
Yes, sir.
Money and debt is a world problem. It's not about the isms. It's about the banks, right? Because money is controlled by central banks. And so the countries are in debt because the central banks want control of the people. And if you read certain books, like the books that we talk about on here, like, The Creature from Jekyll Island and a few other books, you will understand that it's not the isms that cause the debt to Because when people get on there with these memes and talk about we $45 trillion in debt. Who is we? Well, we is the people of whatever country that is, because it's set up that way so that the banks can control the people. So banks control these countries, and that's why we just talk about plutocracy, because the very few control the very many. And so when you understand how these systems work, you don't say those kind of things.
I think it boils down to what Courtney said, right? Like, it's not even that big of a discussion. We don't practice capitalism. So can you judge it? That's something we practice anyway.
At all.
But I would also say that we make a big deal about debt, but the economic activity swallows it up for the most part. But again, those memes get power. They got power, so everybody kind of follows the meme. So,
well, I think debt.
Right, so let's see.
Debt. Can we talk about how debt is vilified unnecessarily? Like debt. I mean,
how about that?
Like that's frustrating. I mean, I think that gets us into trouble. Now, do you want as a country, do you want your debt to exceed your GDP, or what's considered your gross domestic product, which your country is putting out? Absolutely not. But I feel like you put yourself in a really big bind if we don't understand how debt is to be used. Now, do you need a whole bunch of credit cards? Probably not. But do you want to have properties that you're able to purchase and leverage using debt? Absolutely. That is the way that you're able to build wealth. Leverage is a way to build wealth, but you're just going to trick it off on a credit card. That's not it. So yeah, that debt is problematic. That's consumer debt. But I don't think we actually cut debt finely enough. We just kind of painted with the Dave Ramsey broad stroke is all debt is bad, and that's just not true. And you actually cannot, based on what we've been talking about, you cannot live productively in the society without some level of debt, because that's how your credit score is generated. How well do you pay other people back the money that you owe them? I don't know what else to say.
So, Amina Designs chimes in and kind of echo what you said, Courtney. She says, I think much of the challenges we're not taught the difference between income and wealth, and debt is definitely taboo.
Facts.
All right, y'all. So what do y'all think about the book? What do y'all think about the commentary tonight? Agree, disagree, impartial? What you got for us?
Who?
All right. So Agent says, I don't think jazz has been eroded. I think it's been eclipsed by a newer genre. It's a natural progression of culture, and music either dies, stays, or evolves, which is where we get sleepy, smooth jazz from.
I don't even know what that is.
That's Kenny G.
What's
that? Sleepy
elevator music. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case, is that they've actually taken the arts out of schools. So where you actually learn, because jazz, the foundation of jazz is actually improvisation, but it's improvisation based on the scales. And I'm a musician. I'm an old school musician. Boom. There's a secret that no one knew. I played the clarinet.
Right,
also,
hold on.
Oh, I played the clarinet in 5th grade too, baby. Yeah.
So Courtney, you play the clarinet?
Mm-hmm. And the saxophone. Yeah.
And
so
play it now? Can we get a solo?
No.
I can't imagine Corey with a clarinet. I just can't.
Yo, I was in 5th grade, dog. I was the man. I was carrying around my clarinet case. I went to my foot.
Little case, the case is everything, because you knew you were about business. The case was about business. That case was about business. You couldn't figure out nothing else. But I share that to say is when you take away the arts in schools and you take away kind of music and all those other things, you actually erode society. Arts actually is the lifeblood. As much as we need the arts just as much. When we talk about STEAM, we talked about STEM for so long, but we actually do need STEAM. And art influences life, and that influences the sciences. And I just don't feel like we understand that well, and we removed it. And no, a lot of people don't play instruments, because especially in the Philadelphia public schools, is that people got an opportunity to play instruments that they would probably never have a chance to. My best friend learned how to play 5 instruments in high school. First of all, she was talented, but nobody picked it up that she was so talented until somebody actually took the time and poured in. But we also, Dr. Claude talks about in the book, he's like, well, who is education failing?
is not failing the system that it was meant to protect.
Right,
because
nah,
education is meant to protect the system.
That's the bar.
it's not failing. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
Exactly.
Well, it's failing us.
No, oh yeah. Well, I mean, it fails all the people though, because it's meant to protect the system. It's not meant to protect people. Education is not meant to protect people. It's meant to protect the system.
I agree, but I'm not all people. I'm not really concerned about all people. I'm concerned about
these are all the facts.
Us. I'm concerned about us. Because at the end of the day, when white America gets a cold, we get the flu. When we get this situation where we have
what you doing, Kamar?
I don't know what Kamari's doing. He's all over the place today. But
he's trying to call my guy out. I don't like that, Kamari. I don't like that. He's trying to call my guy out.
I hit one wrong button, and folks want to crucify me like Black Jesus. I don't know.
Want to crucify me?
You got the heroin knife going on. You got the heroin knife.
We got the engineer. You have to be on point, Kamari.
Yeah, Kamari. Yeah. But yeah, no. I mean, all of those things come into play when it comes to educating us. And at the end of the day, when we don't learn our history, I mean, Dr. Claus says it, and I love page 69. It's like my favorite when he has this comparison chart about being a POW and about being an enslaved person. He said the success rate of slavery, he's like, we have the shortest life expectancy, we have low self-esteem, we remain divided, and we're non-competitive. They remain fearful and continue to seek white approval and rewards that come from being sambos and sellouts. So, I mean, first of all, it's bars, and that's fire. But my problem is, and one of the things that I've noticed is that, we have a shorter life expectancy. I think some of it's predisposed. Some of it, you can't tell me every other person has diabetes and it just comes from just eating bad food. No, that just doesn't conceptually make sense. We have some predispositions here. And then on top of that, we have low self-esteem. A lot of it is because we value our proximity to whiteness. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we lack the education of the straight splendor of what we have contributed just to this country by itself. Because every time we turn around, that has been kind of cut down and changed and diluted and manipulated to kind of just saying like, well, you guys should have been happy to be here. Like, no. So I think that helps, that aids the lack of self.
I just want
to have any place. Go ahead. Wait, what happened?
I just want to say I think it was amazing when you gave a page number out and you can see everybody pull their books up. Everybody pulled their books up and went to the page. I feel like I was in school for a second. You see everybody flipping to the page real fast.
Courtney was preaching and teaching real good. She had us in church. Like, one verse 7. She took us to the old school black church. My man Sean put a comment in the comment sections about Lauren Talese and saying she's a great modern day jazz artist. He's not lying. One, she's dope. 2, that's his wife / girlfriend. And 3, I've seen her live 3 or 4 times, and her voice is absolutely damn amazing.
Hey, can I say this real quick?
Gotta check her out.
That's his fiance and wife. Listen, that proposal you did, bro. That proposal was phenomenal. I don't even know you, but the proposal was amazing. I saw it.
I did see that proposal. It was.
Yeah, man. That's my man Slim Flum right there. That's Sean. And yes, that's.
Congrats to you guys.
That proposal was crazy.
Yeah, I have to check it out. I didn't see it.
Congratulations,
Black love, man. Black love.
Yes, congratulations. Shout out Black Love. # Black Love.
And
that's what it's all about, y'all. Black
and
love,
no bullshit. She's super damn talented.
Yeah, she is.
I've listened to her before, so yeah, she is dope.
All right, I just needed to say that because we talking about Black Love.
No, listen, Black Love always has a place.
So part of this for conversation, real quick, is why I've been having an itch, man, to move back down south, because the Black unity in the South is way more, in my opinion, than what it is here. It's like they have in Raleigh, they have the Black Farmers Market where they bring farmers all over around North Carolina, South Carolina, bring their goods to be sold at this one place every week. They got the Black August in the park every year. It's like the connection of blackness with blacks in the South is just different than us blacks in the North, man. I really feel that draw to the South. I understand why everybody black moved to Atlanta. It's just, it's different, man. It really is different than up here. Up here, like, we're way more splintered than down there. I don't know why, but
you don't know why?
No, I don't know why. I don't know why.
Well, again, most of the Africans that came here were deposited in the South. They went to the South. They have a culture tied to our source. And so they don't, while the South has its problems and their challenges, unity usually isn't the biggest thing, right? And let's use a hip hop reference. Look at what Master P did. Look at what all the South artists have done.
Atlanta, Houston, Louisiana, they all came out together. And then when you see artists from here, they come out individually.
Right. And a big part of that is because the people, the community supported the music more so than we do up here. A lot of times.
Yeah, they went platinum in their city before you even heard of who they was. They went platinum in their city.
That's true.
Right. And, then you got to put, a lot of the black colleges there too. You got to put it up. Like up here is Lincoln Cheney. I think Malcolm X closed down years ago. And that's probably it as far as the North. What before?
I would agree.
Nah,
and here's the thing. There are more blacks in the South than anywhere else in the country. The biggest population of black folks is actually in Texas. And so folks don't realize that.
I didn't know that.
I did.
Can I comment on something real fast that Courtney said? So I know my wife just recently finished this book called Cass, and I saw someone in the comment section mention it too.
Yep.
So when she finished the book, she forced me to move it up on my reading list. So I just started it. So, but one of the arguments is Isabel Wilkerson. I'm gonna get her name right. Isabel Wilkerson.
Yeah.
And she says, diseases, high blood pressure, and diabetes are a physiological effect of being black in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the point of something that Courtney said. So it was actually a part of that book, and it's called Cass. So I think that's a powerful book too. I just started it.
So I saw Dwight put it up, but Dwight put it up, I believe, because of Willard's recommendation. Because Willard recommended that book a while ago. So shout out to Willard. I'm not sure, right? Shout out to Dwight for reminding us about it tonight as well. So I'll definitely.
Yeah, she forced me to
check it out.
She finished it. She said, "This is good. You got to move this up on your list." Like, she forced me to move it up on my list. So I actually just started it. So yeah, but that's one of the arguments that was made in the book, to Courtney's point, that it's not that we're the only ones with whatever diet that may be. It's literally a physiological effect of being black in America.
Yep. I mean, what I want to see this list that you had. You said you moved it up on your list. What? How long is the list, Jimmy?
I try to read 52 books every year. And I've hit it for the last 7 years. This year I might be a little short, but I'm still in the middle of reading a bunch of books. But you can go to goodreads.com/JW the Blueprint. I do keep my list there, by the way.
Oh, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Don't do that. Now, Jimmy, do you ever go back and reread any of those books and revisit any of them?
Absolutely, I do. There's certain books that I always reread, like The Richest Man in Babylon, The Creature from Jekyll Island, PowerNomics. There's a group of books that I always go back and read, Animal Farm, just to see if my perspective has changed. But I always add in, like, there's always new books. I'm always reading multiple books at a time. So right now, Cass is one of the books that I'm reading. And the other book that I'm reading right now, I'll give you the title of it. It's called Money Dies. So those are the two ones that I'm into right now.
So
also one more. I'm sorry. What's your question?
How many books do you read at one time?
Sometimes 3 to 5. So one day I'll read one, next day I'll read the other. And I do that intentionally to see what I take from it, to highlight. So I'm always reading more than one. And one other book that I am currently reading, I meant to mention this, is called Capitalist Nigger. I can't think of the African brother's name. And a lot of what he talks about in that book echoes Dr. Claude's teachings in PowerNomics, but he's a lot more straightforward and like, yo, you better do this or we're done for. Like, his is more like, if you guys don't do what Dr. Claude says, we're done. So, but it's a pretty interesting book, and it's called Capitalist Nigger, his book. So Yeah, so those are some of the books that I read right now. But I want go ahead.
What's your good read tag again, Jimmy? JW the Blueprint.
JW the Blueprint, yes, sir.
All right, pulling it up on the screen. I'm gonna pull it up on the screen. This is interesting. I mean, we should actually create a Blackwell Project book list as well. Okay. All right, here it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, we should. Right for the group.
Oh, cheesy.
So
sorry. I mean,
so if you go to like, you know, no, I was gonna say there's a thing on there where you can actually go to see the books that I'm currently reading and stuff that I've already read. But and that'll be that should be on there somewhere. I think it's like I'm always logging from my own, but you're logging from, so it should be like somewhere down there. But if you're not familiar with Goodreads, it's almost like a social site for people that read books. And you can you know, put what you're currently reading, what you've already read, and you can actually leave book reviews on there as well.
So there we go. When money dies, the nightmare of the Walmart hyperinflation, the big bankroll. Oh, we like Arthur Rothstein. Okay. Capitalist nigger. When money dies, I choose to stay. So you know what? I have that book and I never. I just finished that.
I just finished that.
He's from Philly. That. Oh, shout out. Jimmy wrote BMF or read BMF.
Yes,
the Rise and Fall of the Beach.
Listen, man, I read everything, man. Hey, like man. You know, everything on there is not necessarily Dr. Claude material, man. Like I love my my Ratchet and my Righteous, man. Listen, man, I tell you in the heartbeat, man. Listen, my favorite authors of all time. Some of them are Ashley and Jaquavis. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but and probably Langston Hughes. So it runs the gamut. But with all that being said, Cass is a pretty good book thus far, but it relates to a lot of what we're talking about tonight.
Now, all right, so here's the White's quote, right? It said Caste by Elizabeth Wilkinson is a great book, and she really breaks down America and India's caste system, right? And so Elizabeth said, so now we're India. So I guess Elizabeth didn't really like that comparison. But I guess we need to actually dig into the book. I can see a direct correlation to the two, even though America isn't quote unquote labeled caste. I can definitely see a relationship between the two. But I'm definitely going to check out this book at some point soon. All right, folks. This has been a great episode. Moving right along. Definitely want to hear your thoughts and comments about this as we move forward. Do us a favor, join a group, right? So we can continue these conversations throughout the week. And Monica said Cass is an informative book. And in it, she mentions a few other books that I've added to my reading list, like Medical Apartheid and Learning from the Germans. Now, that sounds interesting. Learning from the Germans, I don't think people really realize just how much influence Germany has had on the destruction of Africa.
That's the biggest group of white people in this country is Germans.
That's what? That's what?
Biggest group of white people in this country are from Germany. German Americans.
I didn't know that.
Are the biggest group of white people in this country. If you want to separate them out. The second biggest group of people in this country are, drum roll, people from America, Black Americans. If you separate all out, if you separate everybody out. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Gotcha. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.
And Roby in the chat also gave the name of the author. I couldn't think his name, from Capitalist Nigga.
Hey, Dre.
Anyeni.
Yeah. He be getting to it though.
Right. So Jimmy, you out here inspiring folks. All right. So Andre said he might do a 52 book challenge also.
Nice.
Oh, all right, Dwight. My bad. So he said Willard got the book. I want to make sure everybody can take credit.
Get it right. Get it right.
That's right. Listen, and shout out to Dwight, man, because Dwight, I don't know if he's reading 52 books a year, but he's posting like a new book almost every week or every couple of days because he's been on a straight up knowledge journey as well. And I encourage all of us to do something very similar. All right, folks. So moving right along. Next segment is our Black Icon of the Week. Courtney, I believe, has this. Is that correct, Courtney?
You on
Why are you
mute,
looking at me
Courtney?
sideways, Courtney?
Because that's my life. Yes, I have the Black Icon of the Week is Dr. Claude Anderson. Why not have that conversation since he is the author of PowerNomics? As I shared earlier, if you guys caught it, is that Dr. Claude has been Anderson has been in the game a long, long time. He has his doctorate in education from Wayne State University. He was included in the Jimmy Carter's cabinet, in addition to being in charge, I believe, the state commission in Florida for education. He's written, I believe, 4 books. I think a few of them have been written, have been shared in the comments. And he is so his books are A Black History Reader, White Labor, Black Labor, White Wealth, Dirty Little Secrets, and More Dirty Little Secrets. And then, of course, the book that we are discussing today, which is PowerNomics. He has been, like I said, he's been in the game a long, long time. Jimmy Carter was the president after Nixon. Nixon got out of office in 1974. So again, that's just showing how long he's been in the game. He has been featured on the Breakfast Club. He is the CEO of PowerNomics, and he's also, I believe it's called Harvest Time, which is a company that is a Black think tank, very similar to the Black Wealth Project. So
nice. I think he was also part of the what's the name Clinton administration too.
I wouldn't be surprised. And he also has written a couple of letters. He wrote a letter to President Barack Obama about the Black Economic Plan, and then also he wrote a letter to the current president about how he favors immigrants over Black individuals, or African Americans, I should say.
So I just wanted to highlight this. I was having a bit of a difficulty lag here, but I wanted to pull this up. Usually we always like to include where you can find out more about these icons that we like to highlight every week, but you could always find out about Dr. Claude Anderson at PowerNomics.com. PowerNomics.com. All right, folks. Well, that just about does it for us.
Before we get out of here, I just want to say that I did see a movement online of people are trying to get the incoming president to add him as part of his team in terms of studying what's going on here in the country. So there's like a big movement online of people trying to get Dr. Claude to be a part of what Biden is bringing. And also, Dr. Claude, when you watch this episode, send the Black Wealth Project the affiliate link. We definitely need that. Just want to put that out there.
All right, folks. Well, listen, everybody, we appreciate everyone who is here, who's in the house, who comes here every week. We truly appreciate you all. We're truly humbled that you come here every week as well. We're striving to bring you great information every week. So if you have any suggestions or any topics that you want us to cover, go ahead and throw them in the Black Wealth Project group. And we definitely will try to add them to the list if it makes sense for us all. But listen, everybody, have a great week. Do something to add to your wealth every week. Do something to add to your education as well. And we'll see you all next Sunday at 7 p.m. And I won't be as tired next Sunday. I'll make sure I get some rest. And listen, as y'all moving around during these what they call so-called holidays, be careful, y'all. Be careful. Please be careful. All right. Be well rested. Be well, get your water in, and make sure, don't overstress yourself.
Hold on, before we leave, I'll be in the car next week. I'm back to the car.
All right, that'll be good stuff.
I thought I was going to be today.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.